Hey everybody, how's it going? So today's video here is the brushes everybody's been asking for. So if you are a current Patreon subscriber, you get access to these right away today. And if you're watching this on YouTube, if you would like to grab any of these brushes here, this whole set, please just head on over to Patreon. There's a link below in the comment bar. As long as you're pledging at least $1 a month, you'll get access to the brushes. And it is a subscription-based thing. So at the end of the month, if you don't want to renew anymore, just go ahead and cancel. That's cool. But hopefully there's something there that you like and you can stick around. There's content that I update and all that kind of stuff there. But Patreon, I figured would be the best way to do this, just to really help out the people that are already giving me support. So thank you if you are a patron, and if you're not, thank you for even considering one and checking it out. You might like it. So let's get into the brushes here, okay? So again, coming from Patreon, you're going to get these brushes here, okay? And I'm just going to move them down here. I recommend downloading them somewhere where you can remember where you're going to bring them in. And I'm just going to quickly show you how to install the brushes in case you have no idea what's going on. And hopefully this will help you out here. So these are all the brushes here. They're just as we've named them. Now, to install a brush, right here in your subtool pen in Manga Studio, let me just click the pen there, bring the brushes back up. All you got to do is it's as simple as this. You have this opening here wherever your brushes are. Get your little document here or your folder where these brushes are. Just click and literally drag into this open space. Now what you'll see is it'll actually make it right here. Now, you can just keep doing this, dropping all these files in there, which is fine. Or the easiest way is if you want to have a little bit more organization, like I do. I have right here, if I click in here, you can see all of my brushes that we're going to put in are already in their separate area. But if you want, you can actually do that yourself. And all you have to do is click and drag this one more time into the open space here. And if you don't have an open space, just anywhere in here, as long as it's not in one of these, you want it like in between, okay? And you'll see what you'll do is if you click in here, notice how it removed it from where we were and it put it in its own brand new thing. Now from here, you could literally just, drag one by one in here and you're good to go. I believe if you click and shift all the way to the bottom, let's see if this works. There you go. Might take a little while. Awesome. Look at all that. So it's all in there. Now, the last thing I would do, and this is your call, you do not have to do this at all. This is the setup I have. And if you wanted to pause the video, go ahead and just look through these and click and drag. You can move any of these around or rearrange them. The reason I have this set up here is the production workflow that I like to work in. And it's again based off the DC Comics Guide to Digitally Drawing Comics by Freddie Williams, which we've talked about him to death, and we will continue to do so. But that workflow is pretty much the exact same workflow I've been using since I've pretty much found and read that book. So feel free, organize your stuff here and you can check it all out and come back to the video once that's all done. So this file here that we're going to be drawing on is 11 by 17 inches by 600 dpi. Now 11 by 17 is pretty much your traditional American sized comic book paper, and 600 dpi is a little overkill. Some people don't like to go that high, but Manga Studio is really good at file optimization. So being able to work at 600 dpi can get you a little bit, maybe, it's arguable. For me, I've noticed it, better quality lines and stuff. So when you shrink down, theoretically, again, your lines might look better. Depends on the system you got and the resources and all that good stuff, okay? So just know that. And if you like to work in like 300 dpi, what I would recommend doing is just grabbing these brushes, making grab one or whatever and just figure out the size and then resize the whole image to 300 dpi and then just adjust the sizes for the brushes, okay? If you need help with that, just let me know. I can do a separate video showing you guys that. Not a big deal. One last thing here before we get into the actual brushes. If you notice on the right-hand side, there's all these little like wrenches. And what that does is it locks the settings you currently have for that brush. Why I use that is because on your keyboard, you can use I don't know what symbol is, the brackets, I think it is. And like I said, I can just do this, tap it, make it smaller, a little laggy today. Do whatever we want, it's all good. And if I click off to, like, let's say go to my eraser, right, and I'm starting to erase some of this stuff, when I go back to my brush, notice how it's smaller again. And that's because it's defaulting back to the locked property there. I like that because it gives me like a solid grounding of all the brushes are going to be the same size as the first time I use them, and it keeps everything consistent, okay? You might not like to work that way, but I just want to let you know what you're looking at when you see that stuff, okay? So let's go through the brushes, and again, this is pretty much the workflow that I like to use. So right here, this big lifeless marker, as I like to call it, think of it like a Copic, or not a Copic, sorry, a Sharpie marker. It's nothing special. There's no beauty in the line at all, and that's the point. This is just to get like an idea down of a figure or something like that of placement. I love to use this because I can't get in here and just start doing little rendering or figuring out like, okay, so where's his eyes and his nose, like I can't get those details in there. It won't let me. It just won't let me. And for a lot of reasons, that's not a great tool to ink with, and that's not what it's meant to do here. It's just meant to get you going, get on something on the paper, and not worrying about great art. That comes later, right? Comes later. The other thing I have next to it is I like to start with either this marker, or what we've been using lately is this silhouette marker. And all it is a pressure sensitive brush that doesn't go too thin. And just go back to videos if you're not familiar with like silhouetting and stuff. But this works great for me for just blocking out silhouettes and stuff, right? And you can erase it and come back in and just start to figure out like, okay, what's the shape going to be, okay? And this is again the normal workflow that I would like to work in. Then from here, the next thing we got up is a pencil, okay? Now the pencil is going to probably look is going to definitely look weird for a lot of you. If you notice, look at the size of it. It's massive. But when we're drawing, it's very thin. And I don't know why that is. There's definitely a setting that I have that's making it appear this way, and I'm not sure why. Really, I'm not sure why. Now, what I do to get around this is a lot of the times you can just go here into your file preferences under cursor, and you've got your little options up here. There's the brush type, pen, and eraser. Click here, see which one you like. There's tons of tools in there. I like to know the brush size that it can get up to, and that's what this is saying. That's why you can see that big circle. But that dot is what I'm looking at. The dot is where the center is, and once you start drawing with it, you'll probably start to feel exactly where it's supposed to be. I would recommend using the dot like this for this tool, just in case you get a little bit lost and you're just staring at whatever the hell you're staring at with this giant tool here. But you can see like we could get some nice effects and stuff like that for our pencil work. Next up, we get into the good stuff. So right here, it'll say line art. This is like that, if you're coming from the DC Comics method, this is like your 3-pixel brush. Here it's actually 6 pixels because, again, we're working on a 600 DPI image. So for a lot of things, it's almost just doubled, So I have this normal brush, and this is 99% of the time the only brush I use when we're doing line art. However, you'll notice I have one that's also called fine line art, and that one's a little bit smaller. And this looks to me almost like a 0.05 or is it 0.005? One of those really small microns, like a tech pen, And I use this sometimes when you got characters way in the background or something, where their line art might look a little bit better if it wasn't as thick. When characters are a little bit smaller like this, in the background, and we don't have room for a lot of detail. And then, you can kind of get characters a little bit in the front. This isn't the contour layer around them. This is just a different size of it, okay? Because sometimes you need it. And again, you can always just adjust this stuff with the brackets on your keyboard, but I like to just use this because, like I said, when we started this, it gives me a great standing point, like a great post in the ground that everything starts here, and then we build on it from there, okay? And then the next step here is the inking. You'll see there's one fine inking, and large inking, pretty self-explanatory. The generic inking, this is the one that you'll see me inking pretty much everything on this channel, except the prints that we've just done. The Ninja Turtle print, the Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and the Mega Man print that we recently did. Because those are covers, I find that you're working so far back that the large inking is a lot better for that. But for panel work, like in comics, I like to use just this one here. And it's up to you. Just play around with whatever one you like. So fine, it's very similar, but you can only get so big, which is great. And then the large is like a much big, it's a lot fatter, a little bit more bold with it. And the shape of these brushes, they look like that. They're little like triangles. And that's great for like texture work and stuff like that. It just has a little bit of a flair to it that just using a generic circle, pressure sensitive brush might not get. Okay? And then of course we're going to have one that's just a texture brush. And this one looks something like this. Now this kind of stuff I would use for like maybe we got like a panel where there's like a fight, and you can kind of just beat it up like this, and it gives it just a little bit of an organic kind of look, like you're using like real ink, I don't use this too much, but sometimes, it's nice to have. Most of the times we're just using inking, this brush, and line art. This is probably 95% of the work is right here, maybe even 99 to be honest with you, okay? Every now and then, sometimes it's nice to have a little bit of tooth and texture to the artwork. This is the kind of stuff that makes it feel less digital if you're looking for something like that. Okay, so we got that. Next up is our color flats. I don't color a lot of things, I color some things, but for me when I'm coloring, let me just bring this up so you can see it. Anti-aliasing, okay? I just want to show you. So this brush here is aliased. Alias means it's just pixel perfect. You see there's no gray. Let me show you an inking tool next to it so you can see the difference. Do you see the nice gray? When you're zooming out, it gives it a nice fine line. It looks really good. But that's not what we want for flatting. And I'm not going to get into like a tutorial on how to flat or anything like that right now. But just believe me that aliased or pixel perfect lines like this are great for making your flats, and that's what I like to use this for. I might make like an outline around somebody, and then Manga Studio is really great. You can just fill it with a paint bucket and it'll be perfect because it's going right up to the pixels. Or you can use a magic wand tool, and when you select, if you look, it's going to go right into each pixel, and that's what we want. That's why. Whereas if I was to do it with this one, let's see how it looks. I might have my wand settings a little bit better, but do you see what's happening here? Check it out. You might not notice this, but do you see these dancing lines? They're going here, that gray one, that gray one, that gray one. Oh, it missed that one. It also missed that one. That's what you don't want. That's going to lead you to like a white halo sometimes around your selections, okay? So that's why I use that for flats. And then the last one here are the ones that I probably get the most requests for, which is my Copic markers that I like to use, the Copic settings. Now, the actual gray that we're using, I believe I got this off DeviantArt. So just Google search Copic markers, Manga Studio or something. DeviantArt is where I believe I got it. So you can check that out and grab them. Or you can make your own colors. I forget exactly where I got them. So there's two kinds of Copics here. The first one here is this first one that I've always been using. And I dig it. I still use it like almost every time I use a Copic. I use this one here for the most part. There's just something about it that I really do like, and if you zoom in, it's got this weird effect. Some people might not like it, and that's cool. But if I make the size a little bit bigger, if you look, it's got a little bit of texture in there, which is great. And what it's doing too is it's making the outsides like almost bleed a little bit, so it looks like it's a little bit more wet. Even though Copics are alcohol based, you might not see that, but it's a really cool effect that I dig. I will just put a little disclaimer there that when I use Copics, I'm not using Copics for it to be like beautiful line or like beautiful Copic work, like marker work. I'm not doing that at all. I use mine mostly just for like one shade of shadow work. That's it. So this gets me there and gets it done. I'm not doing full-blown color stuff. I will also say that the Copics here, if you dig them, they're only meant for like gray. They don't build with colors well like normal Copics would. They don't have that much range to them. It's really just a single color. So if you wanted to, make this like red or something and fill it, it'll still do that look. But once you go like, let's go with like a yellow or something on top. Do you see what's? Oops, sorry, it's locked. You see what's happening? Sometimes it works, and a lot of times it just gets real. Like it's like I'm painting with it, and this is not, I don't think anyway, what Copics would look like, right? Like if this is the color we're coming and we're bringing it in, like look at this. That's not how that would work. It's a cool effect. You can play around with it for sure, but that's not necessarily what I would use it for. And I just want to let you guys know about that because I don't want you guys getting this hoping that this is the perfect Copic brush to do your artwork with, because it's not. It's just meant for really gray washes, and that's what I'm sort of noticing more and more I use it. So the next one here is the same idea, just with some texture added to it, and there's two kinds. If you look, this one comes this way, it's a vertical, and this one's horizontal for the chisel tip at the end of a Copic. Now, there's some differences, obviously, hopefully you can see them right away, is watch the top and the bottom of this when I let go. Do you see how it almost looks like it's adding liquid to it after the fact? That's what I dig about this, okay? Is that it adds like almost like a blur, so it gives it this look as if it's a little wet. I should also say too that it starts heavy. You can see here, like a blob, and then ends a blob, because that's what I was noticing the effects I was getting when I was using like real Copics. And the faster you go, you get like less of that. But if you go nice and slow, you get a nice thick line. Everything lines up really well, and you can keep going over it until eventually it all becomes uniform, which is great. And the other one obviously is the exact same thing, just goes up and down. That's all. So you can go back and forth on these and see which ones you like if you need certain angles and stuff like that. And the very last one here is just the opposite side of the Copic marker, which is like the little brush. Right, and this is to get our little detail areas in and all that stuff. And you can see it's adding a little bit of like wetness to it. You go quick and it gets like there's not much gray in there, but if you go nice and slow, it's loaded with ink. And that's a lot of the effects I was going for. So that's it, guys. That's pretty much it. These are the brushes that I've been using for, I would say, the last 6 months to a year. Especially the Copics. Those are recent addition, and I'm still playing around with them. I don't think we're quite there yet, but we're very close to getting, like, almost, I'd say 90% close to where I think it'll just be. It's just little effects that I might change and do this and that. So anyway, thank you so much for your guys' time. And if you're a Patreon, I hope you enjoy these, and I hope, I do say that the tool doesn't necessarily make the artist, but I would also be lying if I said sometimes when you find a certain brush or something that somebody uses, it clicks with you, or it lets you treat a digital tool in a way that a traditional one would as well. Okay, so check it out if you like it. If you're not a Patreon, consider pledging. At the bottom there's a link to head on over to Patreon. And like I say, it's a monthly subscription. $1 gets you the brushes and all the other good stuff we post over there. And if you wanted to cancel your subscription, you can cancel any time. That way it won't auto-renew every month. Okay? So, thank you so much. Keep reading comics, keep making comics, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.